Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ben here, and today I'm going over my predictions for the NBA playoffs and the NBA finals, who I think will win each round, how many games I think each series will go, and how the matchups will play out. As you can see, I am wearing my Maple Jordan Andrew Wiggins shirt today because he sank some very crucial free throw last night to send the Wolves to the playoffs for the first time since 2004. Also, I have the James Harden poster in the background, which may seem like a conflict of interest, but you gotta give it up for the beard. He's the man. All right, so going into it, I want to do the Eastern Conference first because the Western Conference is a bit more fun. So let's look at the 1 and 8 matchup first, Toronto and Washington. I see this going to 5 games with Toronto winning. I think that this is a pretty clear-cut case. Washington has not played that well since John Wall has returned. They played pretty well with him injured for that good chunk of the season, but it seems like they've reverted back to their old ways without him. And Toronto, despite people saying that the deep bench will not work in the playoffs, it's gonna work at least for this round. DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry are a lot better than John Wall and Bradley Beal. I think John Wall and Bradley Beal have more potential together, but I think right now DeMar DeRozan is an MVP candidate and Kyle Lowry is an all-star, whereas John Wall is an all-star and Bradley Beal is a fringe all-star, and they're just not as good. And the two backcourts are really what's going to determine this matchup. And besides that, Toronto has a lot of really good complementary pieces, whereas Washington has some good ones, but I don't think that they're as cohesive as Toronto is. Toronto has a really good flow going. So I see it going 5 games. I think Washington could get game 3 at home. I feel like that's not out of the possible range of expectations. Okay, going on to the 2 versus the 7, we got Boston going up against Milwaukee. I think if you were going to pick one series to have an upset in, this is definitely it. You got no Kyrie for Boston. You've got no Marcus Smart. You've got no Gordon Hayward. They're really going to be relying on Jason Tatum, a rookie, and Jaylen Brown, a second-year player, but I still think that they can get it done. I have liked Milwaukee all year. I love their roster. I love the trade for Eric Bledsoe. I think that if they do a lineup where they have Bledsoe, Brogdon, Middleton, Parker, and the Greek Freak, I think that could be a great small ball lineup. Obviously, they don't want to have to play the Greek Freak at center because he has the body shape of a light pole, but still, I think that could be an effective lineup. It'd be really good for space and pace, and they could do some damage, but they'll never do that. They'll keep John Henson in there, who's a good player anyways. But I think that this could be the one matchup to watch out for an upset, because if Milwaukee somehow figures out that they actually have more talent on the floor than Boston in this series, that they could somehow win. And it'd be a great opportunity for the Greek Freak to prove that he's not just a guy who can only get to the first round, that he can actually win a series. But I'm going to take Boston in 6. I think that Boston has the way better coach. I think that Brad Stevens is a genius. I think that they have been there more. Al Horford has been in the playoffs nearly every year of his career, has been to a conference finals, and they just have more experience in that regard. I think they're more calm, cool, and collected. I think that although both sides are going to rely heavily on the young players to do well, I think that I trust Brad Stevens helping his young players more so than I trust Milwaukee helping out their young players. So I'm going to take Boston in 6. All right, the 3 and the 6 matchup, Philadelphia and Miami. I'm taking Philadelphia in about 5 games. I think that Miami has a good enough defense and enough energy that they could win one at home, but I think that Philadelphia is rocking lately, and I think that they are a heavy contender to get to the finals. I think that this will not be a hard series for them. I don't think that Whiteside is as good as Embiid. I think that being said, him being their best player, if Embiid can neutralize him, they've got the Philadelphia 76ers have this series on lock. And who's going to guard Ben Simmons? Yeah, Goran Dragic. There's about a 10-inch difference there. I don't know. I don't trust Dragic to guard Simmons, so I think that Philly has this one pretty easily. All right, Indiana and Cleveland. I'm gonna go out and say that Cleveland gets a good old sweep. I'm not a Cavs homer, but I just think it's going to be a series a lot like last year when they played Indiana and they swept them, but every game was really close. I think that'll be exactly like that this year. I think that LeBron somehow has Indiana's number. Whenever he has faced them in the playoffs, he wins. Miami, Cleveland, either place. There's no Paul George. I don't think that Indiana, they're pretty similar to last year, honestly. They still have Miles Turner and Thad Young. I think that Victor Oladipo has essentially given them the same production as Paul George, actually been a bit better, but given them similar production. But I'm taking Cleveland. I don't think that the King is going to be outed by Lance Stevenson and the crew. So there's that. All right. I'm going to just do the East all the way to the finals. I know it's maybe you'd want me to do the whole first round, but no, I'm going to do the East all the way to the finals. Okay. So in the second round matchup, you would have Toronto versus Cleveland. Now, when's the last time Toronto and Cleveland met in the second round of playoffs? Oh yeah, last year, and Cleveland swept them. And I think Cleveland's going to get them in 5 this year. I think that they beat them in the 2 crucial games down the stretch that each team needed, and Cleveland got the wins. I think that if you look at matchups, I think that if Rodney Hood can give him 15 a night, and I think that if George Hill can give him 10, and Love gives him 20, which might be asking a lot for Love, but if you can give him 16 to 20, let's say, and if you can get 12 to 15 from Clarkson a night off the bench, I think that they got him. I don't think that DeMar DeRozan or OG Anunoby or CJ Miles, for that matter, are going to be able to contain LeBron. I think that the matchup to watch is LeBron and DeRozan. I mean, obviously the 2 best players on each team, but is LeBron going to guard DeRozan on defense? What I mean by this is LeBron has been slacking off on defense a lot this year. Well, this will be the tell sign if the Cavs are really going to lock down on defense during these playoffs, if he guards DeRozan hard, because that'll be the sign that he is flipping the switch and they're going to try and play some defense. I think that the Cavs, as far as low post matchups, Thompson and Larry Nance, I think are about. They're not as good as Valanciunas and Ibaka, but I think that there's not a big enough of a difference that it'll help Toronto. So 5 games, Cleveland wins. Okay. Now on the other side of it, Boston and Philadelphia. I think that Philadelphia wins this in 5 games, maybe 4 if Embiid is back and fully ready and rolling. I think that Boston is a great team when Kyrie is healthy, when Gordon Hayward is healthy. Those are 2 huge caveats. So I think that they're going to go down pretty easy. I don't think that Terry Rozier is going to be able to contain Ben Simmons. And I think that Embiid is way more than Horford can deal with at 33 years old. So, and I don't know. I think that Robert Covington and Jason Tatum are probably about the same level of player right now. I know everyone's probably like, oh, Jason Tatum is going to be a superstar. Yeah, but he's not right now. Robert Covington is giving you 15 points a night this year. Jason Tatum's giving you about the same. And they also have J.J. Redick putting in 17 a game for the 76ers, so I think that they got it. Moving on to the Eastern Conference Finals, the matchup that everyone is really curious about. Philly and LeBron facing off. Will LeBron go to Philly after this? Will he not? It kind of depends on if he wins the series or they win the series, I think. I think that LeBron does win this. I think that the Cavs are going to come out of this winners in 6 games. You know, this whole matchup is really reminiscent of a matchup that went on in the 90s, and it happened twice. In 1995, in the second round, there was this team that consisted of a really tall point guard and a really young, energetic, fun, dominant center. It's not the 76ers of today. It's the Orlando Magic. They had Penny and Shaq. And along with that, they had 2 good sharpshooters on the perimeter who were older but still pretty good, Nick Anderson and Dennis Scott. And on the modern 76ers, you have J.J. Redick and Robert Covington to fill those exact roles. So I think that these are about the same teams, and just looking back at history, they got Michael Jordan in a sweep or 5 games the year that Mike was out for a while and came back. But the next year when Mike was healthy and ready to go, they swept the Magic. I think that it's going to go more like the latter than the former. I think that LeBron is going to whoop these young fellas and show them how it's done. I think it'll be a good series, though. This is the one series of the playoffs in the East that I would say is can't miss. The rest are going to be okay. But this one, you're going to see LeBron probably on Simmons and maybe potentially Love and Embiid as a matchup. That would be pretty cool. 4 All-Stars right there. So that is the matchup of the East, but I'm taking the Cavs because of the experience, and I think that the 76ers will be tired by the time that they get to the Eastern Conference Finals with the young, inexperienced legs going that far and not realizing the wear and tear that the playoffs have versus the regular season. All right, moving on to the West. First round, my 2 favorite teams going at it, the Rockets and the Wolves. I think that the Rockets have this series in a clean sweep. The Wolves are just getting Butler back for about his, I want to say, 4th game when the game 1 tips off. And I think that in a different year, this is a much more competitive series, but I think because Butler's coming off the injury so recently, they're going to struggle more. And I think that they're out of rhythm and they're going to go off of adrenaline winning that last game, and they're not going to be fully prepared for the first round matchup against the Warriors and the Rockets. And the Rockets are just rolling, so no contest. Rockets win it easy. Now, who's going to guard James Harden? Oh, Jimmy Butler. But then who's going to guard Chris Paul? Jeff Teague? No. Jeff Teague's not a good enough defender. All right. Moving on. Warriors and Spurs. Now, I think that a lot of different teams in the Western Conference could have given the Warriors a run for their money with Steph out, but not the Spurs without Kawhi at that. The Spurs are going to play a style that runs through LaMarcus, and the Warriors are going to be able to neutralize that pretty easy. This I could see 4-0 or 4-1 if the Spurs really catch the Warriors off guard and Durant's not hitting one night. So I'm going to just say 4-1 to give the Spurs the benefit of the doubt. But they'll have 3 of the 4 for the Warriors. The only All-Star out is Curry. So I think that they'll be just fine in the first round. All right, moving on. The 3, the Trailblazers, versus the 6, the Pelicans. I like this series a lot. The one thing that would make this series amazing, though, is if we had DeMarcus Cousins, but we don't. I think that this series goes 7, and I think that the Trailblazers take it because they've been here a lot more than the Pelicans have. Damian Lillard seems to defy everybody. A lot of times people underrate him, but if a player keeps getting called underrated, is he really underrated? Because everyone is saying that he shouldn't be. So I don't think he's underrated anymore. I think he is a serious MVP candidate this year for sure, getting them to the 3. I just don't think AD has enough help. I think CJ McCollum is a legit all-star candidate next to Lillard, but AD has got Mirotic. And Mirotic is a nice 15 points a night, but he's not a legit number 2. He's a number 4 on the championship team. So I'm going to say 7 games just because AD will play out of his mind, I think. And I don't think that Ed Davis or Aminu is going to be able to contain him. But maybe they'll put Nurkic on him and that'll bang him up a little bit, but we'll see. All right, the 4 and the 5. The Jazz versus the Thunder. I think that this could be the closest match of the first round. I think that it's going to go 7. I think that we might see every home team win. I think that the Thunder will win all their home games. I think that the Jazz will win all their home games. And because the Thunder are the 4, they're going to win the series. I think just they've got too much star power. I think that Westbrook overpowers Rubio. I think that although Mitchell is good, they'll have Corey Brewer on him, who is a pretty long, decent defender, who I think would be capable and up to the challenge of defending the rookie. I think Donovan Mitchell will shoot a lot, but may shoot a lower percentage because that's just what happens in the playoffs when defense is locked down. I love Donovan Mitchell, though. I think he should be Rookie of the Year, definitely. I think Rudy Gobert and Adams will be a great matchup. I think Gobert obviously has the edge defensively. I think Adams actually has the edge offensively. Carmelo and Paul George are better than Derek Favors and Joe Ingles. I think that this is the main difference of the series. I think that Ingles gets way overpowered by George. George is going to have to show up big time for the Thunder to win this series and prove that if he wants the lights of LA, he better go out and do well in this series to prove it. Because if they go in the first round, I'll think a lot less of Paul George. Moving on, second round, we've got the 1, which would be the Houston, going up against the 4, OKC. This is a fun matchup. I like all the star power in this game. I think that it's a wash between Westbrook and Chris Paul, but I think James Harden is a lot better than Paul George. So that's where it really lies in this series for me. I think that if you want to compare Melo to Eric Gordon, I think that they're about the same level of player, but I'm actually going to trust Eric Gordon a lot more at this stage of his career than I'm going to trust Melo. Melo's had the worst year of his career, and I just don't trust him. I like Capella better than I like Adams. I'm seeing a 6-game series with the Thunder losing, and Paul George, he'll get 20 points a game, but he won't be able to contain Harden. So I think that that's the big difference. If they had Robertson, I might say Thunder in 7, but they don't. If he would have been there, he could have helped contain Harden, but he's not going to be. So, all right, moving on, we have the Warriors versus the Trailblazers. Now, a lot of this depends on if Steph comes back. He might play a few games in the series. He definitely will not play the whole series. I'm going to say Warriors in 7, banking on Steph coming back through part of the series. Because I'll say if Steph doesn't come back, Trailblazers win it in 7. But if Steph does come back, I'll say Warriors in 7. I think that, the Warriors have played the Trailblazers in the last 2 years in the playoffs, but I feel like McCollum and Lillard have really improved a lot on their games, and I like them a lot. They'll have Nurkic healthy this year, which they didn't have last year when they got swept by them. Steph's going to be banged up. There's going to be chemistry issues. But, Durant is better than Lillard, and Thompson is better than McCollum, and Draymond is better than Nurkic. So, boom, boom, boom. They win all 3 of those matchups. So, Warriors are going to win it. All right, going on to the Western Conference Finals, the matchup that everyone's been waiting for. Houston, 65 wins, going up against the reigning champ Warriors. I think that a lot of this depends on Steph's health. I think that if Steph is fully healthy, the Warriors eke it out in 7. I think that if Steph is not healthy or potentially doesn't even play a few of the games, I think it's Rockets in 5. I think Steph is a huge point of this series. You want to break down matchups. I think that Harden is better than Thompson. I think Thompson will do a decent job guarding him, but I think that Harden will still get 25, 8 and 8. I think that Draymond will do just fine. I think that Thompson will do just fine, but it really depends a lot on Steph because Steph is the engine that drives them. Durant will do good. I think CP will do good. I think Capella could be a big difference in this series. How do the Warriors guard him? How do the Rockets use him? Because this is going to be a pace and space environment. I know that they've been playing with him in pace and space all year, but do they want him on the floor at end of games if the Warriors want to do a Haka type style where they just foul? Because these games are going to be close, I think, and they're going to be in the 120s, and you're going to want shooters on the floor a lot. So I don't think that Capella will get sat out much, but I could see him going with the Ryan Anderson at center lineup and throwing in PJ Tucker at power forward or even Joe Johnson at power forward. And then having Gordon, Harden, and CP. I've always wanted that lineup, a lineup with Johnson at power forward and CP at point and Harden at shooting guard and Eric Gordon at small forward and Ryan Anderson at center. It would be terrible for rebounding, but it'd be a cool one to watch. Okay, but if it comes down to it, I'm going to say the Rockets win it because they just have had all the momentum. They'll have barely struggled in the playoffs, and they'll get to the finals relatively unscathed in 7 games. As much as you can get unscathed after playing 7 games in a series. Okay, moving on. Finals. Cleveland and Houston. What do I think is going to happen? I think Houston wins in 6. I think Cleveland has a bigger shot than anyone's going to give them credit for. I think that when you have the best player on the court in a series, you automatically have a better shot than people are going to give you credit for. I think that LeBron has a psychological toughness that James Harden doesn't have yet because he hasn't been this far, and that CP does not have this far because he has not been to the finals yet. I think that, it's going to really shine who has been there and who hasn't, and that's how the Cavs are going to win 2 games, but I think that ultimately the team with more talent will win this one. I think that the Rockets will win. Yeah, so that's what I think of the playoffs, guys. I think it's going to go Houston over Cleveland in the final after getting the Warriors out in the conference finals with a not totally healthy Steph. And the young 76ers having a great run, but ultimately losing from lack of experience in the conference finals. So yeah, I'll keep you posted for more videos, and have a good day. Bye.